Blessed are those who hunger and thirst, for they will be filled. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted.
Thank you. After the church bells rang the Angelus in the evening, in rather rainy weather, with a pickup truck kindly lent by some friends of Villa Cade parish, the new priest sent by his lordship Monsignor Bretone, Bishop of Reggio Emilia, who assigned him to the parish of St. Lucia, Virgin and Martyr of Fontana Lucia, finally lands after an adventurous trip. The new priest, Father Mario Prande, son of the late Giovanni Taylor and the late Adalgisa Fantuzzi, was born in Reggio Emilia in the parish of Saint Teresa of Avila on February 6, 1910. He was ordained priest by the Most Reverend Bishop above mentioned in the Cathedral of Reggio Emilia on July 15, 1934. For 6 months he was sent as assistant first to Calerno parish, then from January 5, 1935 to August 2, 1936 to Castelnuovo Monte, and finally from August 23, 1936 to October 31, 1938 to Villa Cade. Maybe it was my misdeeds, or maybe they realized that I was beginning to tread on somebody's toes, so they sent me rather far away from my native place, that is to the extreme southern boundary of the diocese. We unloaded the few and poor belongings brought in from Reggio. Soon I met old Bana. She was the housekeeper at the parish house. She looked after the church and the lamp of the Blessed Sacrament. Soon a nice warm fire was lit in the big old fireplace of the parish house, and after a visit to the Blessed Sacrament, we had a quick meager dinner. What happened is this. I was just 27-28 years old when I went as parish priest over there. I am from the city. I didn't know much about life in the mountains, but I adjusted to it quickly. I became enculturated as one of them.
All the people were saying, certainly he will not remain here in this place. He, coming from the city, will not stay in this poor village. On the contrary, he remained here with us.
The priests, especially in those days, had a higher than average education and were often placed in culturally poor environments and places with a bit of a closed mentality. Now, those who habitually approached these kind of priests who lived in our mountains, soon noticed one aspect: the loneliness of the priest. The priest would overcome it with prayer and study. However, in short, they did not fully associate with the people here. On the other hand, from what I've known and seen of Father Mario, he was never ever alone. He mixed with the people, he rubbed elbows with us, he rolled up his sleeves, and as I've said before, he dived wholly into the life of the parish, and he shared in its life as it was. He was with the people, involved in their problems, and sought possible solutions. This is the first thing that comes to my mind about this close relationship that existed for nearly 50 years between him and the parish.
Soon I could see what existed in my parish, a beautiful church, because it was beautiful, to me, really beautiful. A bell tower with a formidable set of bells, 4 of them, all cast here in Fontana Luce. Because since 1600 there had been a company of famous bell makers, a small parish theatre, and also a drama group.
Ray of light that shines on the skyline and rises up to heaven and pours out peace and a smile. Let the beam of light dispel the sign that marks the pain. It reminds you that the end of the journey is heaven, and heaven is love. And there the drama ended, and the curtain fell on the stage.
There was even a brass band with trumpets, thrombones, But it was, let me say, a bit sleepy, and we awakened it. There was a good Catholic lay association.
We did the program for the band with opera music, Aida.
Seeing that everything was going well, I was at times left gobsmacked, knowing that things were neither looking up nor down. Seeing frequently some poor wretched persons. In the mountains, there are a remarkable number of marriages between close relatives. They are all related. Those boys didn't have a way to date a girl. They had no opportunity. Then there were various groups of the parish, and woe to those who were running about with the girl from another group. It was not easy. So they would marry among quite close relatives. I have a lot of dispensation certificates in the archives with regards to kin, cousins, etc., in order to marry, because if not, it would become a tragedy. So what happened? It happened that it was a bit weakened, the pureness of the race, so to speak.
The affection he had for the poor, he loved them intensely, but he did not stop at emotions. It was a love enlightened by faith, by the Word, the Eucharist. At the extreme, to consider the poor like another Christ, I mean really, in which he physically would touch Christ himself. And in this, I think he was an extraordinary man, because even in the most difficult people to deal with, in the most repugnant ones, or the unfriendly, he was able to see Christ, and see a man who deserved all his respect and affection.
I was brought here when I was 1.5. I came from Piacenza. My mother was not married. She had me and my sister. My grandfather knew the parish priest, and the parish priest knew Father Mario, and so I came straight to Fontana Luce. I became very attached to Father Mario. In him I simply saw a figure of a dad. Because he was good, he was a volcano. In fact, he was really affectionate and paternal with children.
At the deanery priest meeting in the parish of Cervarolo, we also talked about a possible hospice asylum in Fontana Luce, in order to keep the most desperate cases of the parish and perhaps of other parishes too. Several priests were favorable, but did not believe it was possible to make such a home in our places, and especially at that time of war.
To me, it is something that should not be done.
There is poverty and war, but even if we don't believe in divine providence the way Father Mario believes in it, let's give it a try. If the Lord wants, He will provide. Otherwise, it will remain an idea only.
When it comes to the women, they had to shoulder a lot of responsibilities. At times, they had at home these poor handicapped children. And when there was housework to do, these children were left on their own, and so anything could go wrong. In fact, one had fallen into the fire, and another overturned a pot full of hot water on himself. He was totally burned. Another one had fallen into the pit near the house where the animals were watered. These poor boys or these poor girls were also sent out to look after the sheep. At times, there was someone who took advantage of them. You understand the kind of things that went on. The birth of another disabled child, and so on. I explained to some members of the Catholic Lay Association and a few others from the parish that Mrs. Leonilda Guigli, who owned the inn that was near the church, was willing to give that old, dilapidated building to be repaired so that we could look after her two deaf and dumb daughters. Likewise, it was agreed upon that some other families of the parish who had disabled people at home needed to do more work in the fields due to the absence of many men who had left for the war. We would pray over it, and in summertime would begin the repairs of the old inn. The parish took up the matter, and all contributed with something. Some gave a chair, or 2 sheets, or 2 or 3 plates, or some clothes. Anything to set up a home. The entire parish wanted to participate. The 17th Sunday after Pentecost. After the last Mass, as it was done on other occasions, the significance of the opening of the St. Lucia Hospice was explained. The statue of St. Lucia was shifted from the parish church to the old inn of Mrs. Leonilda, now to some extent restored. The statue used to be kept in a closet in the sacristy and was exposed only during the saint's feast. Now it has been put in a suitable place near the entrance of the hospice, which will be called from now on St. Lucia, Virgin and Martyr.
It was a gift given to this village. As I said before, this was a poor village. But from that moment, we felt we were rich.
We could not send our poor somewhere far away, because the parents and the relatives would not have seen them anymore. Beside that, the parish felt compassionate toward them. And so the small house took shape, and it remained the house of the parish, in which all the faithful coming to church learn in the church what is charity, poverty. In theory, they learn it. Then coming out, they find here a school, a gymnasium, where they could practice charity and poverty. Well, the characteristic of a house here in Fontana Lucia is poverty, despite the munificence of the big benefactors that has spoiled it by making parts of the house look good, although we have preserved some corner in extreme poverty. That poverty which caused a couple of sisters who came, good, holy sisters to say, "But how can such poverty be possible?" And they did not come because there was extreme poverty. However, the Lord has helped us. Poverty is a characteristic of the house. We can only own the furnishings and the walls within. Dr. Pasquale Marconi, who founded the hospital of Castelnuovo Monte, delivered a deeply emotional speech. Then we proceeded to the blessing of the rooms where there were the first disabled guests, some 10 of them. A young girl from the parish of Romanoro and 2 or 3 from Fontana Lucia who looked after them.
About poor or disabled people, I personally had no knowledge. I didn't know any. Indeed, once I saw one. I had such fear I can't describe. I saw her walking slowly among the chestnut trees. She was staggering, ragged, and half-dressed. I felt she was staring at me, that she was looking for me. and I was really scared and ran home into my room and shut the door. And my mother, when she saw me so pale, asked, "What have you done?" Then I said, "I saw a poor person."
The parish priest had started looking for religious sisters from various places to ensure assistance to the poor people. The bishop had approved and blessed the initiative and pledged his support to find some nuns for the hospice. The guests are the masters, for in them there is the Lord.
Once we asked Father Mario to send away some of our guests who were really giving us a lot of trouble. And he candidly said, "No problem. They are in their home. It is you who are not permanent here. You can go."
The masonry work of the hospice was in progress, connecting with the adjoining part of Mr. Giuseppe Guigli's and Mrs. Palmina Fontanini Tazioli's buildings, because poor people from other parishes came to be part of this family.
Father Mario never ceased to remind us at meetings, recollections, Catholic lay associations, young women's movements, children's associations, about our responsibility towards the poor. He never ceased to tell us that the poor and Jesus are the same thing.
The religious habits for the girls were already prepared brown in color after the Carmelite pattern, but without a scapula and with a white veil. On the eve of Our Lady of Mount Carmel's feast, the parish priest went to seek the formal consent of the parents of the 4 young girls who were to be vested: Maria from Romanoro, Almina, Carolina, and Cecilia from Fontana Lucia. There was no difficulty for Maria, but it was difficult for Almina and Cecilia.
When Father Mario, at the suggestion of Bishop Brettoni, decided to make sisters of those girls who already were doing service at the hospice, he also made the proposal to Almina, my own sister, who spoke with Mother. My mother initially was against it, not because she didn't want her to become a nun, but because Mother had realized that the life of my sister was disposed towards a total surrender to the Lord. But she could not understand what sort of life it would be, which turn it would take. There was uncertainty about the future. What sort of congregation is this? What kind of sisters will these be? Therefore she was negative because of this specific aspect. And indeed my sister said, "But I, even if the religious habits are prepared for Sister Maria, Sister Giuseppina, and Sister Gemma, as long as I don't have the clear consent of my mother for this choice, I will not take the religious habit, even if it costs me a lot, even if everything is ready."
My daughter is too young and they work with sick people that she is going to fall ill.
My father did not approve, but in the end he had to, as they say, give way and let her do what she wanted. In short, to do God's will.
A bit disappointed, he returned to the church. Late evening, while adorning the neck and hands of the Blessed Virgin statue with those necklaces and rings that we used to put on her feast, roughly he spoke like this: "Lord, there is a prayer of Saint Bernard. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection was left unaided. Well, you know, since a long time we have asked for sisters to look after our poor people. We have got some of them in the parish, and the parents are against it. If tomorrow the girls do not come to receive the religious habit, I will be forced to preach that the prayer of Saint Bernard is not true, and then I will also have to remove all these decorations because..." At that moment, from the dark of the church, a priest who had heard clearly that speech made aloud thought it best to cut it short, as it was not respectful. The next morning, feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. With the church packed, the 3 girls, but not Cecilia, were at the foot of the altar, and with the explicit consent of the parents expressed in front of everyone, the girls were vested as religious sisters. and they took the following names. Maria became Sister Maria of Mount Carmel. Almina became Sister Gemma of Saint Teresa. Carolina became Sister Giuseppina of the Cross. What have you done to these little ones? You have done it to me. It will be your supreme rule.
I believe that the bond between Father Mario and Sister Maria was a providential association willed by God. Because Father Mario was a man of great ideas, insights, but sometimes it was a bit hard to actualize them. And instead, Sister Maria was the quiet person, calm, obedient, the person who knew how to carry out the big dreams of Father Mario. And I believe that was the pair that God wanted in order to bring the gifts of the houses of charity to His church. I think Father Mario was a saint because holiness is not to be sinless, but is the intensity of deep love that you have for the Lord. I would say the commitment you make in order to reach your Lord. To join Him not in the sense of wanting to be perfect for the sake of meeting God. I mean in the sense of loving with that intensity as God has loved. The words of Jesus, "Love one another as I have loved you," is, I think, the deep meaning of holiness. And Father Mario had done it with his labors, with his imperfections, with his sins, with all his poverties. But all this with a magnitude of love that could really welcome anyone. He knew how to re-welcome when someone was lost. He would go and take the first step even towards the people who had done evil to him. He really knew how to love with a free heart. Now, I think this is the sanctity of a person.
I immensely thank Holy Mother Church for having welcomed me, cared for me, nourished and healed me in my many miseries and sins. Thanks for the gift for many priestly vocations that I have accompanied to the altar of Fontana Lucia, and also thanks for the pain for the loss of one of these, for the missionaries of the parish, for Bishop Baroni, who so loved and promoted the house of charity, and who loved me so much to the point of suffering with me and for me. Thank you, Lord, for the strange choice of making an instrument. What sort of instrument, I do not know. To set up the family of the Sisters Minor Carmelites and the Brothers of Charity, and to care for and guide them poorly, but with sincere love and dedication till today. If these are things that last, they will continue with the help of God and Our Lady. If they do not last, I hope that they will at least have contributed to ploughing and fertilizing a portion of the soil of the Holy Church for the birth or growth of some true holy souls who will be able to do what I, and for this I ask forgiveness, and maybe others have not been able to accomplish. Thank you for all my family members, especially my own sisters Maria and Ida, who since 1938 until today have eagerly and wisely assisted and helped me, and especially have borne with me. Thanks to all friends, priests, religious, the laity, above all, the youth, who have borne with me so much and have assisted me in my priesthood. And thanks especially to the poor, who have helped me to know more about the Lord, and a rich portion of humanity full of treasures and resources of all kinds.